I'm Raushan Hammond, and welcome to my home. Now, before a really good meal, I love a really good tasty appetizer. I've traveled all around the world, and I've had this appetizer many times, and I've really had a really good version of it, of course, in Mexico. Now, I'm talking about chips and guacamole. Today, we're going to make homemade chips and homemade guacamole, and the ingredients are really simple. For my little recipe here, I'm going to be using some lemon, lime, tomato, some onion, and of course, avocados. We've also got a little bit of salt, pepper, garlic powder as well. Really easy, really simple. We're going to start by taking our avocado. We're going to cut it very carefully in half, making sure not to cut ourselves. Once we've got our avocado in half, we're going to go ahead and open it up. We're going to get one of our little bowls here. We're going to take a spoon and we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull out all of the avocado right out of that shell there. Now we've got our other side here that also has, of course, the pip right there in the middle. We're going to go ahead and pull that pip right on out, set it to the side, and carve out the rest of that avocado right out of the skin. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to repeat the process because I'm making a lot of guacamole today because I have some friends stopping by. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut the avocado in half. I'm going to separate the halves. I'm going to take my spoon here and pull out all of that avocado right out of the shell on the second one as well. We're going to carve that pip right on out, set it to the side, pull out the rest, and once again, we're going to just keep repeating this process. Okay, now here comes the fun part. We're going to start by using a tomato. For this, I just use a simple, inexpensive Roma tomato. I'm going to take that tomato, I'm going to slice it up just a little bit. Once again, being very careful not to cut ourselves. And I'm going to start by just cutting this baby on up in a little bit, like little chunks. And remember, this doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to get just a bunch of little chunks of tomato and have them be different little sizes and shapes. This is the cool part. I'm going to take all of my tomato and I'm going to just toss it directly into my bowl of avocados here. Then after that, we're going to do this. And then the next little part that I kind of add this in myself for my own little recipe here. I'm going to just take a little bit of onion and I'm going to go ahead and just get a little bit of onion and just kind of scratch it off so that I can just drop a little bit of onion flakes into the avocado mix here. Now that we're done with that, all it takes is just a little bit. I'm going to set this to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of garlic powder. See that? It looks good. Then once I have that settled and done, I'm going to do something a little different. Now, I like my guacamole to be a little bit, I guess you could say, creamy. Not everybody does this, of course, but I'm going to add in my own special little secret ingredient, which is mayo. I'm going to take maybe about a little bit over a teaspoon of mayo, and I'm going to drop it inside and apply it to our avocado mix here. Now that that's all settled, here comes the simple fun part, the magic. I'm going to take a lemon, I'm going to just cut the lemon in half, and I'm going to squeeze that baby right on top inside of our guacamole. We've also got this, a lime. That's the amazing part as well. I'm going to cut that lime in half. I'm going to squeeze that lime juice right on inside of there. And I'm going to take my spoon and I'm going to just start giving that a good mix. I'm going to make sure I mash up those thick slices and chunks of avocado. And I'm going to get it in there real good. And as we start to kind of mix it up, Oh boy, this is gonna be so yum, so good. I'm just gonna make that, give it a good slurry in there. Make sure it gets a good mix. And that looks like guacamole. I mean, baby, that looks good. So, now that we're pretty much done with it, we have to do something extra, something amazing. We're gonna make some homemade tortilla chips. Now you can use corn or flour. Believe it or not, I prefer flour chips for this nice creamy guacamole. So we're gonna do that right now, baby. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna make homemade flour tortilla chips. Really, really simple. I just have a couple here that I purchased over at the grocery store. I'm gonna take my large tortilla, I'm just gonna fold it in half. I'm gonna take my kitchen scissors, and I'm gonna make it real simple. I'm just gonna cut it in half really quickly. I'm gonna cut that in half as well. And now we're just gonna kind of cut it in triangle little shapes. But you know, it doesn't even have to be triangle shapes. You can play around with this. You can make different designs if you like. I like a nice big floury chip. So once we cut these babies on up, we're gonna get ourselves a skillet, put a little bit of oil in it, and go ahead and fry up these babies. Now I'm gonna put just a little bit of oil in this skillet, using my ladle. Now that we've got some oil in our skillet, I'm gonna go ahead and let that get nice and hot, and I'm gonna grab my tortillas and get ready to toss these babies right into the skillet, being very careful not to burn myself. And we're just gonna put them nice and even in little even areas. We're not gonna overcrowd the skillet whatsoever. And I'm gonna start by just tossing the first one in there, the second, the third, and so forth. Keep that going. Now you see that right there? You see how it literally starts to kind of puff up? Just a little bit. You see that right there? You see how it starts to literally just kind of puff up? It's amazing. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna just flip over each tortilla, making sure not to burn myself. And we're gonna cook the other side of it. Now while that's cooking on the other side, I'm gonna go ahead and get a couple of paper napkins, and I'm gonna get a strainer so that we can drain some of that oil out of those chips. Now I've got all of my chips completely out. I've got it in a little strainer. I've got a paper towel, a couple of them in there, just so that it can kind of drain right on out. And while that's kind of sitting there, what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grab a little bit of salt, sprinkle, sprinkle. I'm also gonna grab some of my black pepper, and I'm just gonna toss that right on top of it. I'm gonna just kind of shake it up a little bit. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to plate our homemade chips and homemade fresh, creamy guacamole. You're gonna probably look at me and say, you think you're fancy, huh? Yeah, I'm gonna go really fancy for this. And to make it a little extra fancy, I've got some green onions here. I'm just gonna go ahead and literally just kind of dice up, cutting it really thin on the green onion. Just a few. You don't have to go crazy here. And I'm gonna go ahead as well. I'm gonna take a little bowl like this, and I'm just gonna put a generous amount of guacamole into this little bowl here, and it's going to help me form a little shape. So in just a minute, I can push it out and put it onto our serving plate and showcase our lovely little appetizer. So I'm just going to take that, I'm going to toss it right onto our plate. That's perfect. Take our spoon, we're going to go ahead and shape that a little extra in here. We're gonna take our lime that we had earlier. We're just gonna kind of dice that up, put it in slices for effect. We're gonna go ahead as well. we're gonna pull out our yummy homemade chips. Put one that's nice and puffy right in there. We're gonna put a few more right there onto the plate. And then, here we go. Here's the magic. Voila, we're gonna just sprinkle a little bit of those green onions right on top. I smell that lemon juice. It's incredible. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my favorite homemade flour tortilla chips and homemade creamy guacamole.